Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
All
SEC.
those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What
talk.
a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
They're players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And good evening, everyone. Jeff Palermo from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio, along with the editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, Jackson Blackman, our producer, and also Andre Champagne with us as well. Tiger Rag reporter and Louisiana Radio Network reporter. Welcome to the show. Got a big show lined up for you tonight. A lot to talk about after the Tigers' 10-point win over Florida, 20-10 on Saturday night, and all the storylines that have developed since that win over the Gators. And then we're looking ahead to the Southeastern Louisiana game, and we're also talking about what else is happening in college football around the country. Matt Hayes from the USA Today will join us later on this hour. We'll hear from Michael Cauble, WBRZ TV sports director. Of course, Michael found himself in the crosshairs of an exchange with Coach Brian Kelly. We'll get Michael's thoughts on that. Of course, BK has apologized to Cauble for going off on him following the win against Florida on Saturday. Lee Burkeen, he will join us as well from Louisiana Football Magazine. Talk about Pop Houston, the Evangel quarterback, class of 2027, committing to LSU. And Koki Riley from The Advocate, who is also a AP voter, top 25 voter. Those individuals have been under a lot more scrutiny here lately. We'll talk to Koki about the Tigers and his process in coming up with the top 25 every week. Todd, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just trying to figure out if Glenn is no longer with us.
He's on assignment.
Yeah, he's the editor, though. He's the editor. So,
I believe he is on assignment. I think he's doing some research on torso injuries, and maybe he's going to injure his own torso to see how well he recovers from it.
oh, okay.
Man,
Torso injuries come from overwork.
Well,
that's true.
that's why
a fact.
yeah.
They do. They're caused by overwork. So if Glenn has a torso injury, I'm gonna pull him out of the game this weekend, and I'm not gonna let him because he's too valuable of an asset. We need to rest him up and get him ready for more difficult games down the line.
He's questionable. Is he questionable?
No, it's definite that he's not going to play this weekend if he's got a torso injury. But I want to know why all of a sudden Garrett Nussmeier has an injury now, but whenever he was in fall camp and not participating in drills, he wasn't injured.
It was a pitch count. Well, that's because they're coaches and they try to hide these things.
I'm so naive.
How surprised are you that it came out, or what do you make out of that it came out Monday?
Well, Kelly said he usually doesn't talk talk about this type of stuff, but he's going to go ahead and confide, and because he felt guilty for chastising the heck out of Michael Cauble, as I'm sure was his motivation. So he wanted to confide. No, I'm just joking. I'm being sarcastic.
But I think he's trying to take
heat.
I think there's a lot of people wondering what the heck is going on, and so he's given a reason on what's going on.
You mean because they watch it? When's the last time you saw a football game, college, pro, high school, whatever, where one team turned the ball over 5 times and the other team only managed to score 13 points off of those 5 turnovers?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say your offense needs some work. Whether Garrett Nussmeier is hurt or not, which I trust that he is, and I believe he's been hurt all along, and I do believe it's a torso/abdomen injury, which affects his throwing ability. That would explain his inaccuracies, which have been uncharacteristic this season. It would explain his woeful underthrow to Berrien Brown in the Louisiana Tech game when he was 5 steps behind every defender and sailing for a touchdown. It would explain to me why Chris Hilton has only been targeted 4 times this year. He's a vertical threat. He's only got 1 catch for 1 yard with a fumble, and it's only been targeted 4 times. And then, of course, Kelly's explanation that now he's got a defense and he thinks he's playing in an NFL where the point spread's going to be 3.5. He's trying to protect his defense and rely on his defense. So it's a combination of all those things. But I will just go back and tell you that in all my years of football, watching, playing, being a fan, being a reporter, what have you, I don't remember a team turning the ball over 5 times and only scoring 13 points. I just don't.
So what's the problem here? What's the main
suck
problem?
On offense. That's the problem.
All right, Andre, what is your evaluation of it?
I would probably say just about the same as Todd. It's one thing where it's like you were worried about it against Louisiana Tech, and you were like, hey, they have a good defense. Florida also has a very good defense. But what concerns me is that they really aren't struggling in pass pro, this offensive line. They're struggling with run blocking. And that's really the I don't understand how they can be so good in pass pro and then just be that bad in run blocking. That's really what has stood out to me at least through these first 3 weeks is just the inability to run the ball. And then I think a lot of it is what's kind of, I guess, jawed my attention is the conservativeness on offense. It just seems really vanilla. They just seem like they're playing scared out there. That especially against the Florida game, I understand that you didn't want to make any mistakes, right? Especially with your defense playing the way that they were, but that chance favors the aggression. The aggressor at the end of the day, and LSU is going to have to be able to take some shots on offense to help its defense out because it's not going to be like that every game.
I think they should bring back. Am I on the air?
You're on the air.
Okay, I'm sorry. Andre and I can't hear it. So I think they need to bring back Les Miles as offensive coordinator.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. Put Jack Pyburn at fullback.
All right.
Yeah.
The HP toss is coming back, y'all.
But all right, here's my biggest. Well, first of all, I think we should have all had a little bit more. Our attendance should have really been rising a lot in preseason camp over the pitch count thing.
Yep.
Because 22-year-old quarterbacks, like if Mike Tomlin said in preseason camp with the Steelers, you know what, Aaron Rodgers didn't practice today because he's on a pitch count. I can understand that. The dude's 40 years old or whatever he is. Matthew Stafford, he's on a pitch count during training camp. A 22-year-old kid, or whatever the age Nussmeier is, he's around there somewhere.
I think he's a fifth-year senior, so he's 23, I think.
20, whatever it is, shouldn't ever be on a pitch count. Should never be on a pitch count. And I think we, as reporters, probably let that one just kind of slide too much. The other thing, I don't – here's my thing on the running. So in 2023 – their only running attack really was Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
That was it. 2024, they talked all big and about how they were going to run the ball and they were going to be a dominant run team, and they couldn't run a lick.
Right.
And now we're 3 games into 2025, and I don't want to say an excuse, the reasoning Brian Kelly's giving for the lack of a running game, or at least one of them, hey, all these guys are 3 of the 5 guys are very inexperienced.
Yeah, but they were less experienced
right
in the fall camp when he was talking about how bullish he was on that offensive line, and he knows offensive lines.
Yes.
And they're going to be really good because they're going to be physical and they're mauling and they're going to be we're going to be more creative in our running game.
So here's my thing. I don't believe a word Brian Kelly is saying about this.
Yeah, so so how can you be bullish as a reporter on something or be more responsible? And I don't disagree with you, but I'm looking back to your comment, and when Nussmeier was in camp, first he had the reported leg injury that
ended his career.
Yeah, that never happened supposedly, and then we saw him on pitch counts, like you're saying, and it was set up as load management. We're just managing the load. Well, now he's got an abdomen injury, torso injury, and he's coming down off of it. So we're not going to hold him out of anything because we're not holding him out of practice, and that's why he's not on the injury report. But I'm offering it tongue-in-cheek as an excuse as to why he's not playing well.
To me, he should be at least listed probable. I mean, Kelly said he's not on the injury report because he's still practicing fully, but technically he really isn't if he can't rip it downfield.
Well,
so you're not practicing fully.
I know. Well, this week there is no injury report because it's not a conference game.
Well,
so
but you had a conference game, conference game last week. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'm going to move beyond that.
Yeah,
but I just think there is something systematically wrong with what's going on in this program when it comes to running the football. There is a fundamental problem, and what is it? I know everybody loves Brad Davis. Brad Davis is great, but these guys for the last 3 years can't run the football.
No, Brad Davis is culpable because that's Brian Kelly knows offensive lines, and that offensive line, even though they replaced 4 NFL draftees, including Will Campbell, were supposed to be great against the run and in pass protection, and they were going to be extremely physical, and they're not. So that must be that must be Brad Davis's fault. Joe Sloan doesn't call good plays. Mm-hmm. Garrett Nussmeier's completed 23 of 24 passes at the line of scrimmage this year, and I think like 4 over 10 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They have all that talent at wide receiver. They have all that talent at tight end. They have all that talent out of the backfield. I'll tell you one thing they are doing, which they could not do last year, and that is they are running screens. They couldn't run it last year because the offensive line couldn't run screens. Mm-hmm. But this offensive line is capable of running screens, and they are running screens. Without screens and without those little flare passes, and bubble screens on the outside, they wouldn't have any passing game at all this year.
Should they sit Garrett Nussmeier this week?
I don't think so, because I don't think he's really hurt badly. I think that if he was injured, and I'm not doubting that I'm not going to say he does not have a torso injury and that he is on the downside of it, but I think he needs to play because he needs to figure out how to play again, and they need to take this opportunity against a much lesser opponent to get some timing down and honestly to get some confidence. They cannot have that offense cannot have any confidence right now. 13 points, 5 turnovers. It's crazy.
It is crazy. All right, we'll continue this discussion as we try to figure out what is going on with LSU's offense. Meanwhile, LSU's defense appears to be really good. We'll get into that a little bit as well. So stay tuned. You're listening to Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. Coming up in about 20 minutes or so, we'll hear from Matt Hayes from the USA Today. So stay tuned for that here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Chevy trucks have you covered when the road takes you from smooth sailing to Chevy Colorado will eat up some of the toughest terrains with 5 available drive modes. And Silverado and Silverado HD have the muscle to take you out for some serious with multiple engine options and impressive towing. While Silverado EV is the perfect combo of performance and capability. Nice. Making it a snap to hitch up this electric truck and hit the road. Wherever the road leads, Chevy trucks are right there with you. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and Andre Champagne, a reporter for Louisiana Radio Network and Tiger Rag, as we'll talk a little college football across the country, across the SEC here, coming up with Matt Hayes from the USA Today in the next segment. But, well, we stopped all over LSU's offense in the first segment, guys. So let's talk about the defense here in this segment. We'll get back to the offense as the show goes on. But how good is this defense? I've heard some people refer to it as the best defense in the country. Is that in your opinion, or do you look at the competition they've played and said, let me take a wait-and-see approach on that?
Yeah, I'm very high on this defense. I think that the style of defense they play, the grit, the tenacity that they play with, and Blaker's creativity on creating pressure. I mean, he just schooled Lagway and Billy Napier, by extension, that whole game. Because Billy Napier, he's the offensive coordinator. Well, he's not really the offensive coordinator. He hired an offensive coordinator, but that offensive coordinator doesn't do anything, including call plays. So, and apparently doesn't coach the quarterback too much either. But that Napier takes responsibility for that. But I digress. LSU really did cause and force those 5 interceptions, and I actually broke some of them. Broke all 5 of them down, and you can see in the film study that LSU recognized tendencies, caused pressure, forced him to do certain things that he normally wouldn't have wanted to have done. They created turnovers through recognition of offensive tendencies, through consistent pressure and exploiting his mental mistakes. That he had made those same mental mistakes a couple of times, and they were like tendencies for him, and LSU just took advantage of them. So that's coaching, and that's your players being on the same page with you and executing. This is a very skilled and talented defense. They may not hold every opponent to 9 points a game, which is what they're averaging right now, which is 11th in the country. Overall, especially as they move into some more difficult SEC games in the gauntlet that they're facing. But they're still going to be a strong defense. And, all joking aside from earlier segment, Kelly is going to be more conservative offensively and use his punter, who did an excellent job. And I know Andre just published an article on TigerRag.com today about Grant Chadwick. He was an offensive weapon, and that's what Kelly called him in that game. LSU has tools they didn't have last year and in other recent years under Kelly, and one of them is a defense, and one of them is a good punter, and they're going to take advantage of those, and it's sustainable, in my opinion. Now, is it going to be at this high of a level all season? I don't think so, but it's good enough for them to rely on to win games. They don't have to worry about, I don't ever think, giving up 40 points or what was it against Ole Miss 2 years ago?
Almost 50, I want to say.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think those days are behind us.
Andre, what's your impressions of this defense through 3 weeks?
What I was really just most impressed with this last week, especially in the Florida game, was just how the linebackers kind of responded as soon as they lost not only Whitweeks but Westweeks in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people realize how hard it is for a linebacker to go out there and actually run the defense, because that's what the linebackers do. They are the anchors of the defense.
And Devon Keys is only a sophomore,
Yes, yeah.
and he had 14 tackles.
Yeah.
And the thing is, going back to what we were just talking about, he was executing calls and very complex plays.
Right, yep.
Defensive plays.
And the pressures, and he was identifying just kind of what the offensive line, how they were lined up. I mean, that is just really impressive, and it shows not only the depth they have, like right in the linebacker room, but they have depth all over the place. It showed with the safeties, right? Deshaun Spears, a guy that only had 9 snaps. I mean, that is just insane. He played a lot of third down situations. 2 interceptions in 9 snaps. I mean,
including a pick six that broke their back.
And he talked to us. He was saying that he identified it right away, just because of the amount of film those guys watch.
And what they had practiced in practice from watching the film.
Right.
Again, a tendency
Yep.
that he knew exactly where Lagway was going on that play.
Exactly. And Lagway, it seemed like he really was struggling. He was kind of going through the motions. I would say at points he really wasn't trying to read the field because of the pressure that he was feeling in the pocket.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think he was trying to read the field. What happens is when they put that type of pressure on you, unexpected, and they were both pre-snap and post-snap, and they were mixing and matching pre-snap and post-snap. LSU's defense was the things that they were doing. When you're a quarterback, and you got to keep in mind, this was his first time ever starting
on the road.
Yep. Okay, and to do that in Death Valley and Tiger Stadium with all that pressure on you, you start to see ghosts. You start to see things that aren't there.
And you overthink, and that's exactly what you saw.
Right.
No, it's a really good performance, but I am eager to see them face an offense that just doesn't – I mean, let's look at what Clemson has done here. You know, it has not looked very good. Louisiana Tech, not a great team.
But
DJ Lagway, a guy who's missing practice time. But that being said, the personnel, the scheme, everything that you're – just the eye test of what you're seeing is telling you, even though the offenses they're facing right now are not very good, you get the sense that this is a really good defense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that they're going to be – I think that – and they're – gaining more and more confidence too. And, you know, and Clem, Dabo Swinney talked about in his press conference, I don't know if it was today or recently, that, you know, LSU kind of broke their spirit. That team's been down, so maybe LSU's to credit for what Clemson's been going through lately.
No, good point. Let's take a break. Matt Hayes from the USA Today will join us when we come back on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Things are happening big time at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library in September. Let's begin with the 48th Annual Author Illustrator Program featuring Brian and Andrea Davis Pinky. Music is on the agenda with Red Stick Rhythms Concert Series. September also features Bilingual Family Hour at the new South Branch. For more information about library programs in September, go to ebrpl.com.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine and Todd Horne and Andre Champagne, who also covers LSU for Tiger Rag and the Louisiana Radio Network. We bring in our first guest of the night on the Max Home Hotline. That's Matt Hayes, senior national college football writer for the USA Today Sports Network. Matt, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. How you doing?
Sure. Good evening, fellas. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well. We're doing well.
Hey, Matt, this is Todd. How are you?
Great, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. I understand from our buddy Glenn, mutual buddy Glenn there, that you were at LSU at Tiger Stadium Saturday night, and you got to witness that wonderful game where the LSU defense was just stingy and pressure-filled and forced DJ Lagway into 5 interceptions, 5 turnovers, and only managed to score 13 points. So my question to you, my first question, I have a handful of others that we're going to have to try to squeeze in, but when's the last time in your long career as a national college football writer that you actually attended a game where one team turned the ball over 5 times and the other team only managed to score 13 points?
That's a fantastic question. I don't think ever, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe
a strange game.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe some Big Ten game like Iowa versus Penn State or something like that. But
it was. I'll tell you what; those were 2 heavyweight defenses playing that game Saturday night. 2 like legit top 15 defenses, I think. So that was a big win by LSU. That was not. I mean, you know, we all talk about Florida, Billy Napier, and he's on the hot seat and all that. They've got a elite level defense. The offense got a long way to go. A lot of that has to do with the guys coaching, which would be Billy Napier. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that DJ Lagway's basically practiced 4 weeks since January. So, you know, that just is what it is. But that was a classic SEC game where it wasn't so much offense. It was who was going to push their defensive will on the other guy to the point of breaking. And LSU did that.
Yeah,
without their best defensive player, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, I agree with that. What weeks we hadn't even talked about that. With goes out on a targeting call on Florida's third offensive play of the game, and LSU has to just, well, we did allude to it with Devon Keys coming in. But what did you before we get into the Napier talk, did you see, or do you think LSU's defense is sustainable moving forward through the rest of their schedule?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're 180 degrees from last year. They're the best. It's far and away the best defense he's had there. It's Brian Kelly. I think they can get you as far as get to the quarterback and affect the quarterback from any number of ways. Not only the edge on the defensive line, but the interior on the defensive line, every linebacker spot, safeties, corners. I mean, Blake Baker brings it from everywhere, and they can cover in the back end where they're not going to give up those big plays. I absolutely think they can sustain. I think that's, in fact, going to be the key to them not only getting to the playoff, but making a run in the playoffs.
Were you had to be disappointed with what you saw in the offense, especially with the offensive fireworks LSU's put on display for the last 3 or 4 years?
I don't know if I would say disappointed, because I think they were playing, again, a really good defense. That's a terrific Florida defense. I mean, I can tell you this right now: if Joey Aguilar is a Florida quarterback and he's not being coached by Billy Napier, he's being coached by, let's just say, Charlie Weiss Jr., that might be a different game there, and on Saturday night. So LSU played a really good Florida defense. I'm not one who looks at that and says, "Oh boy, LSU struggled on offense." I think LSU did what they had to do. They knew they were in a game where it was going to be limited possessions. It was going to be, okay, you can't screw up in those possessions. You got to get, the points you can get, and then hope your defense can stay off the field and keep the other offense off the field, I should say.
Are you suffering from any PTSD after attending the Brian Kelly press conference after the game?
No, I'm not. The thing too about Brian is I love Brian because Brian speaks his mind. That's number one. Number two, I think if that press conference would have began, and I'm sure you guys would agree with this, if it would have began with a question of, Brian, great week. You talked about your resiliency routine. He talks about that. Someone else asked him a question about, Brian, the defense looks fantastic. How did it come to that? How have you guys grown so quickly? Blah, blah, blah. And then the third question becomes, Brian, the offense looks like it's struggling a little bit. How do you guys fix it? I don't think he would have blown up at all. Mm-hmm. I think he's just in the middle of just getting away from me. Intense SEC game. He gets to the podium. He's happy about the win. He's happy about getting out of there with a W, man, against that defense. And the first question is, why can't you guys get third downs? I mean, so he blew up a little bit. I mean, to me, I don't take offense to that as a media person, because it doesn't bother me, because I'm a guy out there throwing slings and arrows to these guys all the time. So it doesn't bother me if they come back at me and say something to me. I can see how it could bother other people, but someone like me, it doesn't bother me at all.
And I was talking with Glenn earlier today about this, and he said something similar to that, which I think made a lot of sense too. And that was that, and we're going to have Michael Cauble on in the next hour and talk about it. He's the reporter who asked the question. But Glenn was like, if you want to get, the coach to really give you a good answer or answer the question, you sort of parlay it into a little sweetness or a little respect with what you're asking ahead of time, instead of just lowering the boom. So it's very similar to what you just said. But what about Billy Napier was so unimpressive to you during that game?
Well, I think when you look at that team, I think the same thing just hits over and over and over. They're just not operationally sound, and it's been that way now for 4 years. And it's be it penalties at the worst times. I mean, I looked at him in the post game Saturday, and I said, Billy, with all that went on out there, if you guys eliminate that holding call on the touchdown pass, and Lagway doesn't throw a pick six, you get out of this place. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and said, yes, 2 weeks in a row now. And he's almost admitting that, we've blown 2 games because we're a mess out there. And that's really what it is. You can't be in year 4 with a guy and just be an operational mess on the field. You can't, especially with a roster that it's now completely his roster. It's completely their roster. He recruited, and they've got players in that roster. They've got some talent in that roster on both sides of the ball, not just on defense. They've got guys on offense that are going to play in the NFL, and you can't go into a game like that, even against a defense like LSU, and perform like they did. So I think it's a bunch of things. There's been questions about him being the OC and the quarterback's coach and the play caller, because that's what he is, guys. You can say that they have guys with titles on that staff that are OC and quarterbacks coach. He coaches the quarterbacks. He's the offensive coordinator. He calls the plays. And I think that's kind of the idea of, look, he realizes if he's going down by his own hand. And that's fine if you're a coach and that's the way you feel. Like you feel like you have the best ability to get the most out of your players and get the most wins. That's fine. But when it doesn't translate to the field, then you've got an issue.
Do you see any path at all for him this year, or do you think it's pretty much a done deal now?
Sure. I think if he gets to 8 wins, he stays. I actually think if he gets to 7 wins, he stays.
But do you think that's realistic, given their schedule, that he can get to 7 or 8? That's, I guess, the real question.
I don't know. We didn't think that last year, and they did.
Right.
So I don't really know. I think it all comes down to DJ Lagway. You're talking about a guy, again, that's been practicing or has been part of working with the offense for 4 weeks since January. So let's say, he gets a couple more weeks under his belt, gets a little bit more comfortable. They lose to Miami. They come home against Texas, which is going to be if it's ever going to be a line in the sand moment, if they're 1-3, this is it. You're at home, you're against Texas. It's a big moment. Let's say you win that game. That puts you to 2-3. You beat Mississippi State, you got 3 wins. You beat Kentucky, you got 4. You beat Florida State, you got 5. Then you got to beat Tennessee at home. You got to beat Ole Miss on the road, or you got to beat Georgia and Jacksonville. And frankly, before Lagway got hurt last year in Jacksonville, they probably would have beaten Georgia last year. Mm-hmm. So I think they feel like they can get there, but does it unravel? Like if they lose a big number, 30-3 or something to Miami, does it start to unravel? And I think that's the big question as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's definitely, with the way Miami's playing right now, that's definitely a possibility if they don't pull it together really quickly. When you rank look at the SEC right now, who do you see as your top 3 teams in the SEC in order right now?
I don't know if I would go in order. I would say the three best teams are probably Oklahoma, LSU, and Georgia. Those 3, and I don't know that I would put any of them in one. Tennessee's really close too.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed. I was really impressed by Tennessee's defense. I knew the offense they could score. I was really impressed by their defense. And again, that game was a kind of a high-scoring game, but you could see the defense. Both those defenses are really good. It's just those offenses were clicking. What about who? A&M?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to see it first. It first. I think I have to be I've seen too much 8-5 to think that A&M's going to be anything more than that. And I think it was a nice win at Notre Dame. I think Marcel Reed played really well in the fourth quarter. Made a big play there on that 4th down. But I got to see it consistently, and I got to see it to believe it. To me, with A&M, they're 8-5 every year.
What do you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We'll get you out of this on this one because we got to hit the break. But your latest article on the USA Today Network's on Arch Manning, and where do you think he's at right now? Is this what's going on with Arch? And is it by the end of the year he's going to be the guy that we're all anticipating, or what we all thought he would be this year?
Well, I don't. The thing is, I don't know if it's that we all thought he was going to be, or it's that what was sold. I just think he's a young guy. He's a young guy that hasn't played much football at this level, and he's learning. It might take a year. It might be next year before you really start to see him develop and grow into an elite player. He might be a guy that continues to struggle in some games and play well in other games. That wouldn't shock me in the least. I think right now he's just a guy who's learning.
Matt, thanks a lot for your time, man. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Okay, fellas, anytime.
All right, that is Matt Hayes, the senior writer for the USA Today Network. We'll take a break. We'll get into more here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Andre Champagne here on Tiger Rag Radio. Good conversation there with Matt Hayes as we looked around the Southeastern Conference. So I'm going to ask you guys, who's impressed you the most outside of, I guess, LSU when it comes to the SEC?
I can go if you want.
Go.
I think it's Oklahoma.
Yeah.
For me, it's Oklahoma. Just because they passed the eye test, one. They have a really, really good quarterback. And their defense, they reloaded their defense, and that has been really impressive for me. Their offense was really bad last year, and it seems like Venables went out and got guys that fit the offensive scheme a little better. And Mateer is really, really good. He's experienced, and he looks super, super comfortable over there in just 1 year, and that goes to show you how much of a leader he is, and as he kind of reminds you of that just kind of prototype guy like Nussmeier is, the way that he goes out and plays, just really gritty.
Todd?
I would have to agree with Oklahoma just simply because of watching that Oklahoma-Michigan game and what they did to Bryce Underwood and then what Bryce Underwood turned around and did this week. So I was really impressed with their defense. And Mateer is everything that he was, the quarterback is everything he was made to be coming down. He is a really, I think he's a transformational player for a team, and he's playing that way. He can run, he can pass, and he's doing it all very effectively. So I agree with Oklahoma. I think Tennessee has surprised me.
And they're better than I thought.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that Matt labeled Georgia in his top three because we wouldn't even be talking about Georgia at all. I don't believe, and I don't believe Matt would have if that field goal goes through, and it should have gone through in the Tennessee
But you got to give them a lot of credit, Georgia. They're still Georgia, and they figure out how to win games like they did on Saturday.
I agree. A win's a win, and going back to what we were talking about in the opening segment, this SEC is like the NFL now, and all right, maybe I don't believe that, but completely.
It is the NFL, and then now granted, Texas's schedule is fairly weak, but the chances of a team going 6-2 and winning this league, I think it's a good possibility.
Hey, do you think Bama's turned it around?
I watched the first quarter of Wisconsin game, and that was pretty dominant. That was really, really dominant. I think it's still wait and see. I don't think that's an easy game for LSU when they go to Tuscaloosa. And I think there's a chance A&M comes to Tiger Stadium undefeated. And then the Oklahoma game at the regular season. And then the Vandy game is now looking a little more challenging.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of pitfalls here potentially for LSU, which is why the offense
needs to get cranked up.
Yep, it does. Let's take a break. More coming up here when we continue with Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. Wrapping up hour number one from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio, Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Andre Champagne of Tiger Rag. We'll have WBRZ TV Sports Director Michael Cauble coming on in the next segment to begin hour number two. So before Michael comes on, I figured just wanted to get your thoughts, Todd, since you've been in a lot of post-game locker rooms. What was going through your mind when BK and Cauble had their exchange there to kick off his post-game press conference after the win against Florida?
You really want me to answer that? You really? All right,
you sounded like a coach.
Well,
that sounds like a.
I agree with what Matt Hayes said and what echoing what Glenn said earlier, that you show a little decorum, a little couth, and you give them a little credit, and mainly because you want to get a good question out of them, so you're being charming, as much as possible.
Yeah. Same in a one-on-one interview. Whenever you have, and especially if you're going into a difficult. Now, this wasn't a difficult topic; it's just a football game. But you throw some softballs out there.
Yeah, exactly.
But
warm up the room.
Michael's, But to Michael's defense, LSU, and I'm not. Let's see, how do I want to phrase this? I don't know how many, and I don't really watch too many other press conferences from other teams other than when LSU is playing someone. But I give LSU credit where you pass out the mic so the people that are watching on the stream can hear the question.
Right.
And as a reporter, you don't know necessarily when – and this is obviously on Michael's mind. We're going to hear from him in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
This is obviously on Michael's mind, and you don't know when you're going to get that microphone from the people that are – it's a student workers or whatever that are passing that microphone. And then, I mean, yeah, maybe it could have been asked a different way, but I also
go ahead. No, I'm not trying
to – I also think that Coach Kelly probably agrees with Michael 110%.
Well,
because I think it's gotta frustrate him that this guy was known as at Notre Dame. His teams can run the ball, and he hasn't figured it out here in 4 years at LSU.
I totally agree. I mean, there's no question anybody who knows anything at all about football, and Brian Kelly certainly does, and Michael Cauble certainly does. You're not gonna sit there and think that offense is running on all cylinders right now and doesn't need to improve for LSU to achieve the goals that they've set for themselves and talked about for themselves nonstop since January of last year. Now, the other side to that, though, when you asked me what I thought about it, I thought, that you could have warmed up the room a little bit to get more to the answer he wanted. So maybe that was the fourth or fifth question that he would ask, and that would have been good. But to your point, you don't know when you're going to get the mic back, and that is the most important question. It was by far the most important question.
Right.
And it's the theme of the team. That's what the team has to get corrected to move forward. And the other point is since when does the coach get to dictate what questions are asked, when, where, and how, and why?
Yeah, or how the story should be written.
Right, exactly. Was Kel Mulkey there, by the way?
All right, we'll hear from Michael Cauble when we come back. This is Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
All those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
Players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. We also have Andre Champagne with us as well, Tiger Rag reporter and Louisiana Radio Network reporter. Coming up a little bit later on, we're going to hear from Lee Burkeem to talk about Pop Houston and him committing to LSU, the evangel quarterback for the class of 2027. And we'll also get to Koki Riley from The Advocate, get his thoughts on the LSU Tigers as well. Let's bring in WBRZ TV sports director Michael Cauble. He joins us tonight. Michael, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Just another slow week of work here at WBRZ.
So how tired are you of hopefully, maybe you're probably hoping this is the last time you got to talk about this, huh?
No, it's been fine. Quite honestly, the reception that I've gotten has been really good. Starting Sunday morning at the donut shop, some guy, as soon as I walked in, he did a double take and was couldn't wait to talk to me about it. And today at lunch with my mom, some lady, some guy actually told me to talk to me today at lunch, and some lady at the doctor's office talked to me. So, yeah, it's from my perspective, it's been pretty, reaffirming. So that's been nice.
Yeah.
Obviously I didn't expect it to blow up the way it did. I knew it was going to be big just because Brian Kelly is obviously a name, and there's a lot of people that dislike him for these particular reasons, and he was feeding the beast. But it wasn't my intention to, and that's the only aggravating part of it for me, other than fielding some texts and tweets and things like that. It's just people thinking that I was doing it to get something. Like obviously it's the easiest thing for people to say is clickbait media, et cetera. And my counterpoint, which I've said in most of these interviews that I've done, is just, man, I was just doing my job. I wouldn't have done it any differently. If it had been anybody else or a different situation, if the shoe was on the other foot and the defense stunk, I would have asked about the defense. Because from my perspective, Brian did a good job of talking about the defense and the special teams and the things that went right for them. But and I know, and people that probably listen to your show know, that most reporters are going to report about the whole game, not just the positive parts of it. It wasn't that I was focusing on the negative. It was just he had already covered the positive. So I don't need you to relive that. I need you to talk about the things that everybody's out wondering about.
Yeah, and like we just said, Michael, before we closed out the last hour, it's like, as we were looking forward to this, that's the most important question moving forward. So, and why not ask the most important question right off the bat? But it makes sense either way. But I just want to know, have you ever been persona non grata before in the locker room like that?
Yeah. And I've had a lot of coaches reach out to me, and one of the things that I told them was just that, I've been doing this for 25 years. So I got Nick Saban in his prime, pre-Miami Dolphins beatdown Nick Saban, pre-old Alabama successful Saban. I got hungry, angry Saban right when I was coming up. So it's actually, we joke about this because Jacques Doucet is kind of in the same boat with me. We both started with, how about this, Skip Bertman, John Brady, and Nick Saban as the coaches that we were covering. So quite a different, group right there to learn from and learn at the feet of.
And you could throw in a Jim Haslett if you went down to the Saints, and he wasn't the easiest guy to deal with either.
but he was a little different. He wasn't really blowing up on people. I didn't get Jim Mora. Now that would have been an education, I think, if I had Jim Mora. But no, it was definitely different.
Well, you've got, we all know what happened with Kelly on Saturday night. Well, you've got to tell us the details of Saban for those who don't remember.
Oh, I mean, take your pick. Like, he bawled me out on the football field one time. We were shooting video, and his big thing was injuries, right? And so I was shooting video of somebody that was injured, kind of not practicing, and he stopped practice and said, "If you're shooting video of this guy, I want to see every other blank on this team on your TV tonight," And I was like, okay, I guess I'll start shooting the rest of the crew. So it was. I mean, that's just one of many. Saban was less than pleasant. But and then that's fine. Like, that's my point with Brian. It's okay. I'm not there to be your friend. I don't need. There's a professionalism that I'm doing, that you're doing. You're the coach. They're the football team. I'm there covering your event. I get it. Like, that's okay. I felt like it got a little off the rails there. Like, I don't feel like I'm spoiled. I felt like I was asking fair questions. So this, but yeah, it's okay. He as he said in his apology, he called me, but my phone is set up that if your number's not in my phone, it goes right to voicemail. So he texted me. He said, "Hey, tried calling you, but I left you a voicemail." But he just said he gets really defensive. His first reaction is to get defensive. And what I find ironic is that the question I purposely left super open-ended so that he could take it however he wanted. I said, "What are you seeing in your offense?" Right. I didn't say the offense performed poorly. I didn't say, the offense struggled tonight. What are you seeing in your offense? And he could have gone with it however he wanted, and he chose, to read it the way it was. Now, look, they didn't perform great. They didn't perform terribly, but like the other ironic part of it is, like, throughout the course of that press conference, he answered every question that I asked.
And then continued it on Monday on his own.
He talked about the run game. Yeah, and then on Monday, that's all we talked about, right? So I get it. Like, some of the national writers have said, that's not the place for the first question. And look, I agree. I would, I wouldn't have wanted it to be the first question. They could have started on the left side of the room, and it would have been the second question. You know?
Well,
they gave me the microphone, and that's how it went down. Like,
yeah, that's what I said in the last segment, Michael. Is that people don't understand? They pass out these microphones, and when you got your question, you got to fire it. Whether it's the first question, the 7th question, or the 13th question, it's just It's not like how it was back in the old days. We all shouted out our question, and whoever the coach decided to pick.
Yeah. Well, we had 8.5 minutes, I think, in that post-game deal, right? And so, like, obviously it's a big deal, and it's something that I'm going to report on. Sure, I'm going to report about the defense. I'm going to talk about how great they are, but I also going to talk about the struggles because, for me, 3rd and short has been a 2-week issue now. I saw it at La Tech when they were 1st and goal at the 3, and they settled for a field goal. And so when you see it, I saw it, 3 times that I know of on Saturday, because my perspective is a little different. I'm on the field shooting video, so like I don't see the full game. I don't necessarily know what the problem areas are, what the defense is running against the offense, those kinds of things. So I see a very myopic view of it, and so I kind of have to remember things as they happen. And so that was something that stood out in my head. So when he's like, "What do you want?" I'm like, well, third down is certainly interesting to me, and I know you're struggling to run the ball. So like I would have been fine if he would have just kind of moved on, but he kept pushing and asking me questions, which just opened the door for me to continue to ask questions.
All right. Talking with Michael Cauble from WBRZ TV. Go ahead, Todd.
Hey, so Michael, speaking of the offense, and you just said a minute ago they didn't play great, but they didn't play badly. When's the last time you saw a team force 5 turnovers and only score 13 points?
Yeah, or run really for 45 yards. Look, Florida does have a good defense. Louisiana Tech probably has a better defense than we're giving them credit for. But you saw, I think, what LSU is capable of against Clemson, and we haven't seen it since. And that is raising red flags in my head, right? Like, where is that middle screen game that they worked so well against Clemson? Where are some of the diversification, that we've seen? Why are they struggling to run the ball? Is it because of Braylon's injury and they're not able to get the line out in front and move some things? How much of this is Nuss's injury now that we know this? How much of that is factual now that we know this?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thinking that's just a reason that they made up. I don't think that's true. I think there obviously is something going on with Nussmeier. He's been, certainly off from what we've seen in the past. So there's lots of things, but it's like anything. It's probably accumulation of everything. All these little things are adding to it. But the problem is we saw their potential, and now they haven't lived up to what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, I love this one. Everybody's like, oh, they're just saving it. No, they're not. Nobody's saving anything, like run the plays that you ran against Clemson. Like, you're not sitting on them all of a sudden. They're out there. People know what's out there. So I think there's a lot going on, and some of it, and I've said this too, some of it is managing our own expectations, right? It is only week 3. We do need to realize that it's a work in progress. It always is. So to Brian's credit, he should be excited about a victory, an SEC opening victory against a team that beat them last year.
Right. So do you think that they should sit Nussmeier and more this weekend?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if he plays more than a quarter, it's coaching malpractice in my estimation. If you can make the argument to me that you want to get him up, you want to get him, some work. But if he is injured, then I do not understand the long-term reasoning for playing him more than a quarter against, which would be probably 2 to 3 series at the most, if you're thinking about it. So I don't have a problem with that. If he can handle it, I don't know the severity of it. I haven't talked to the coaches on their own, so that's something like we can find out later in the week.
Is that an okay question to ask?
Right. Yeah. Typically, well, that's the thing, right? Like, here's the other thing, right? Brian's been great. He's given us a lot of access, but he's really only giving access to himself when he is available, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, unless, like, they'd hang around. They'd be around. You could talk to them, and you could talk to them off to the side. And the problem is the stuff that I want to ask, he doesn't want out there. Mm-hmm. And so, when you've done this for 25 years, you tend to develop relationships where you can call coaches or text coaches or find them on the side and ask them something that, you don't want to ask in front of a room of 20 people, because you don't want them to be put in a situation where they have to answer it,
Mm-hmm.
And he can tell me, and they've done it in the past, they're like, I'll grab them after a press conference and we'll have a chance, but there's just not enough of those chances. And I actually had one in pregame with Joe Sloan, but Joe had to go talk to a recruit like as soon as I asked him the question, which is funny because it was completely relevant to what happened later in the night, which is a kick in the pants for me. So.
Yeah, it is interesting. But it's funny how LSU has one of the things I noticed when I came back from California after being there for so long, compared to what it was like before, was how LSU tries to control the narrative so much. And this is an example of that, the same compared to how they used to do it, 25, 30 years ago, like Jeff was saying, where they would open, and you were just referring to where they would open it up. You could request certain players to talk to. You could have your own personal sessions with them. And they don't allow that anymore. So this is a derivative of that. They're going to get put in situations that they don't want to be in. And they don't get to control the narrative as much as they want to. They can't control everything. And that's kind of what I think was going on there a little bit. But
Jeff can probably relate to this, because halfway through that deal with Brian, I felt like I was having flashbacks to Les, because Les really wanted or expected us to be some kind of team cheerleader for the Tigers, and he would get upset when we weren't, and it was like, man, I'm not here to do that for you. Like and for Brian, and maybe to your point, Todd, they've got the brand, they got the whole damn thing right now. Right. So like, they've got their own show that they can run. It was a little surprising to me that he would expect us, as he said, the seasoned veteran of reporters, seasoned group of reporters, to kind of just go with the flow and say, "Hey, nice job, coach. Way to win that game."
And nothing to see here when it comes to the offense. Everything's fine. Hey, Michael, thanks a lot. Keep up the good work, and let's hope we have kind of just a calm press conference after the Southeastern game.
Absolutely. I don't know that I'll be asking too many questions after that one. Y'all have a great night.
You too, Michael. Thank you.
Michael Cauble from WBRZ TV. Lieber Keem joins us when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Chevy trucks have you covered when the road takes you from smooth sailing to Chevy Colorado will eat up some of the toughest terrains with 5 available drive modes. And Silverado and Silverado HD have the muscle to take you out for some serious. With multiple engine options and impressive towing, while Silverado EV is the perfect combo of performance and capability. Nice. Making it a snap to hitch up this electric truck and hit the road. Wherever the road leads, Chevy trucks are right there with you. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo inside the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. Had a chance to talk with Lieber Keem of Louisiana Football Magazine about LSU's latest commitment. It's actually a commitment for the class of 2027. He's considered one of the top quarterbacks in the country. And he's from Louisiana, and he's part of a loaded quarterback class for that class of 2027 here in Louisiana. That's Pop Houston, the quarterback at Evangel. So I talked to Lee about why he likes Pop Houston out of the other quarterbacks, including Elijah Haven over at Dunham. So here's that interview. Talking with the publisher of LAFootballMagazine.com. He also has a YouTube page called the Sports Scouting Report. Lieber Keem. Peyton Houston, Pop Houston as he's affectionately known, has committed to LSU, a terrific quarterback for Evangel. He becomes LSU's first commitment for the 2027 class. It is a loaded class in the state of Louisiana when it comes to the quarterback position, but what do you like about Pop Houston and the fact that he commits to LSU?
Jeff, he was my favorite passer arm-wise in the state. Look, Haven's a great player at Dunham, and there's some other quarterbacks, but the most advanced passer throwing the ball is Peyton Pop Houston out of Evangel Christian. I saw this kid play. I met him at the school 3 months ago. Great kid. He has a cannon arm, and he reminds me of the kid that was at USC that won the Heisman Trophy. That's with your Chicago Bears right now, Williams. So he's a clone of him. And, the game has changed a lot in these last 10 years. It's about getting the ball out, having an advanced arm. And he can move around that pocket, and he's so hard to tackle. And that's why he reminds me of the Heisman Trophy winner at USC a couple of years ago, because he's just so good working the pocket, throwing the ball.
So we talked about it, or said it right off the top here. It's a loaded quarterback class in the state of Louisiana in 2027.
Right.
There's Benton's Malachi Ziegler. And then, of course, Dunham High School's Elijah Haven, who's getting a lot of attention nationally. So what do you make out of the fact that LSU gets the commitment from Pop Houston? And who knows? I don't know where Elijah Haven may go. Maybe they try to get both of them, but it seems like Haven may be leaning more towards Florida at the moment. But what do you make out of the fact that you got these two stud, especially Houston and Haven, two stud quarterbacks here, and LSU ends up getting the commitment from Houston?
I like it. I mean, this is the kid I was hoping LSU would get. That's just my personal, honest opinion. This kid's advanced throwing the football. Haven has the build. He has the 6'5" frame, 6'4" frame. Game looks easy to him, but he's not advanced throwing the ball. There's a big difference between the two as far as their arms. So I like the guy who's got an advanced arm. And, Pop Houston, he can sling it with the best of them in the United States. And I think he's underrated still. Even though people talk about him, I still think this kid is one of the best arms I've seen come out of Louisiana. And look, he's a true 6'1.5". I interviewed him personally with him. I was at the school, and he's taller than they even listed. He's actually long, and he's got big hands, which, as a quarterback, to grip a ball, it comes easy to have the big hands to throw it, and that's what they look for in the NFL. But, Haven's going to be great, but he reminds me of Terrell Pryor that played at Ohio State. The kid Malachi is still pretty raw. He's not really, there yet. He looks the part. And like I said, the most advanced passer is Pop. I love the kid, too. Great kid, great family. And I'm excited for LSU. This is not like they're getting a kid because they lost everybody else, right? I think they got the guy they want.
How about getting someone this talented at the quarterback position from the state of Louisiana? I mean, LSU spent so much time and resources recruiting Bryce Underwood from Michigan, and we all know it ended up coming down to money, and Michigan offered him a heck of a lot more than LSU. But the fact here you got a Louisiana kid probably makes it a lot easier to hold on to this commitment because, again, Pop is only a junior, so a long time before he actually signs at LSU.
Jeff, I think he's someone that's going to help LSU for the state because, players recruit the classes now. The coaches don't. The players recruit the other players. I was talking to Lamar Brown the other day, which we're going to have his interview up this week. He's recruiting the players for LSU that are left at D-line. So Pop Houston's going to be a big ally for North Louisiana A and Louisiana second to recruit the kids that are on the fence that need to stay in state. And, to get a kid out of a big program out of North Louisiana like that. And Pop Houston knows all the players in Monroe because he travels with all of those receivers. There's a lot of them coming up out of the Monroe area, Alexandria area, and New Orleans area. So he's friends with all these top receivers. And the top receiver in the 28 class, the Royal kid from Brother Martin, they're good friends. So this is big for LSU.
Lee, thanks a lot for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff, as always, man. Good talking to you.
All right, man. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon. Lee Burkeen from Louisiana Football Magazine. His thoughts on Pop Houston. He's very high on him, and it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do with Evangel Christian this year and next year as well, and what happens with Elijah Haven. And, of course, there's also Garrett Nussmeier's brother out there as well. We'll take a break. More of Tiger Rag Radio right after this.
Things are happening big time at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library in September. Let's begin with the 48th Annual Author-Illustrator Program featuring Brian and Andrea Davis Pinkey. Music is on the agenda with Red Stick Rhythms Concert Series. September also features Bilingual Family Hour at the new South Branch. For more information about library programs in September, go to ebrpl.com.
How you doing? This is Snoop Dogg.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are tuned in.
Talk LSU sports, interviews, opinions, and your calls around the Tiger Nation.
Baton Rouge was a life for me. Home with LSU Tigers.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
Hey, we love to score and get highlights and championships and play to win.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Continuing from the Super Chevy Dealers studio, Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and also Andre Champagne. With us as well from Tiger Rag and Louisiana Radio Network, we go back out to the Max Home Hotline, and joining us from the Advocates, it's Koki Riley. Koki, thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Koki, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good.
So, we want to talk to you a little bit about baseball and what Jay Johnson's been up to, as he doesn't seem to sleep at all. And he's pulling in a harvest of players, and we'd love for you to talk about that since you also cover the beat for the LSU baseball team for the Advocate. But before we do that, we've got to find out if anybody's been chastising you or accosting you because of your votes in the AP poll lately. And do you still have Alabama ahead of Florida State?
Yes. Right now, as of this moment, yes.
And what's the logic behind that, and the rationale and your defense for that when people accuse you of being not smart for doing that?
Not smart is one way to say it. So I think for me, and I think the disconnect that I sort of have with a lot of other people apparently is that I don't really take one game as everything when it comes to my vote. I believe pretty strongly that we have to take small sample sizes into consideration. I think the fact that Florida State didn't play last week probably played a factor into why it's still the same after these last few weeks, why Florida State's still behind Alabama. But nevertheless, yes, I think Florida State beating Alabama is definitely noteworthy. It's why Florida State's ranked right now in my poll. It's the sole reason, because heading into the year, I thought this was a mid-tier ACC team, 8th or 9th. I make in the preseason, I rank every power conference school in each conference, and I think I had Florida State 8th or 9th or something like that. And I just wasn't super duper optimistic about this team and especially their quarterback situation. And yet they proved me wrong in that one game. But the problem is they've only played 2 games, and the other game was one they were bound to win either way. So I feel like we just need more information on this Florida State team before I start putting them in the top 10. I had a team like Alabama, who brought back a lot of their starters from last season, and again they were a win away from making the playoff last year. That happened. It's not theory. And they also brought back most of their starters from last year. That's a fact. That's not theory. So I'm not putting Alabama ahead of Florida State because I'm making things up, and it's just what I like, and it's just my gut feeling. It's not some sort of SEC bias sort of thing. I just feel like right now at this moment they are still the better team. If they played 10 times on a neutral field, I'm picking Alabama to win more than 5 of those times still. Granted, that can definitely change, and and maybe if the Wisconsin game was a little bit closer and they didn't look so impressive against them, I would have dropped them behind Florida State. The margins are really thin. They're literally 13 and 14 in my ballot. They're right next to each other. So that's just kind of that's the way I would sort of justify that.
So just to let everybody know that may not be aware, what happened was the poll the Sunday after Alabama was upended by Florida State demonstrably at Florida State. You put Alabama still ahead, and you also had Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken, still in the poll relatively high after their opening season loss. And somebody on Twitter that has a podcast, and I can't remember for the life of me who it was, reached out to you for you to justify it, and it picked up a little notoriety. Is the scrutiny continuing, or has it died down?
Yeah, the scrutiny is continuing. Not really from Danny Cannell anymore, but it it is definitely continuing. I look at the number of comments I get underneath my Twitter posts, and it's going up. Do I read any of these comments? No, but I also see the emails that people are sending me in the follow requests I'm getting on Twitter, with people trying to get me to say something. And I think social media, honestly, is probably the worst place possible to be talking about these more nuanced and thoughtful things, whether that's politics or sports. And that's why I just simply don't respond to these things. And same goes with the emails. And I just don't have the time, man. Like, I got a life to live at the same time, right? I got college football games to watch and think about. I got a college football team to cover. So, yeah, I mean, as for Notre Dame, if that's, I guess what we're going to go to now, like, to me, I wrote about this in my column too, and it's part of the reason why I'm doing the column, just so I can have some sort of transparency with the way I'm voting, the way I'm thinking every single week. But the first line was about how this is a very rare situation for me to put a 0-2 team in the top 10. Like, crazy, like it's something really, really unique would have to happen, and that's what happened here, I think. And so Notre Dame lost to my number 2 team and my number 6 team by combined 4 points. So basically, if a couple plays turn the other way in either of these games, in both of these games, then they're the number 1 team in the country. They're 2-0 with 2 wins against very high quality opponents. Granted, one's at home, but the other one was on the road. And they're really just a couple plays away from, and honestly, like, if you're going to play those 2 teams, and given how high people are in Miami right now, which I think is justified, if you're going to play those 2 teams as closely as they did, as evenly as they did, granted they lost, and that does matter to some degree, but what matters, I think, as well, is like how you lose and who you lose to. And they checked off those boxes as well as anyone in the country so far this year, and they've proven that they are a top 10 caliber sort of team, or at least a top 15 caliber team, just given the way they performed from what we've seen so far. And granted, the small sample sizes of the season make the poll look really weird, no matter what way you look at it. But that's kind of my justification on the Notre Dame thing, where a very strange thing happened where they played 2 top 6 teams, in my opinion, played them wire to wire on both those games, and they just were literally 4 points short. And combine that with the fact that they have a really good roster heading into the season. I liked what they had. They seem like pretty comfortably a top 10 team to me. And I think even though they haven't won those games, they've certainly justified that they are on the same level as these teams. So that's why I kept them there.
So I'd like for you, if you don't mind, to go ahead and compare your top 10 to the actual AP top 10 right now. Can you do that? Are you prepared to do?
I don't think I can do that off the top of my head. I have to pull it up, but I can do it. Just give me a beat here. But just to like flip some dead air time. Can you pull up the actual AP poll? Because I can pull up mine pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm going to get Andre to pull it up. And speaking of dead air time, while he's doing that, let's talk about why you have LSU 8th.
Yeah, I had LSU 8th, and a lot of it has to do with what we've seen from the offense. And I look at this offense, and I have 3 major concerns. And when you have the struggles that they've had on offense, and you sort of combine that with the fact that the quality of opponent has dropped considerably to what we thought it was at the beginning of the year, that's those 2 things combined was basically why I dropped them, and I dropped Texas as well. Texas, I think, has had an even worse go of it offensively than LSU. But I kind of dropped those 2 teams for slightly similar reasons. And I think, like, yeah, they played a 1-score game against Ohio State on the road. Like, I'm not really penalizing them for that as much. But the way their offense has even looked worse and worse, I'm talking about Texas here,
right,
as the season has gone along, that's pretty concerning to me. And then for LSU, kind of a similar thing where their offense has looked a little worse each week. But the defense has looked excellent. They do have 2 Power 4 wins. Not a lot of teams have that. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, this Florida team's really struggling. This Clemson team's really struggling. They're both out of my poll at least, and they're out of the AP poll too. So that's kind of why I dropped both those teams. And again, like the top 9, it's all really close,
Right.
I think.
Okay, well, let's look at that.
You can even argue the top 10 is pretty close.
Okay, let's look at that right now. Just reel through the top 10.
All right, so the consensus AP poll is Ohio State at 1, Penn State at 2, LSU at 3, Miami at 4, Georgia at 5, Oregon at 6, Florida State coming in at 7, Texas at 8, Illinois at 9, and Texas A&M at 10.
Yeah, mine's fairly different than that. Just to list it off, Penn State at 1, Miami at 2, Georgia at 3, Ohio State at 4, Oregon at 5, Texas A&M 6, Oklahoma 7, LSU 8, Texas 9, Notre Dame 10.
Yeah, that's pretty different. But like you said, you have a rationale and justification for it, and you're free to vote. They give you the ballot, and you can do what you want with it, and you're making logical sense with what you're voting. So I don't have any qualms with it. But it sounds like some people actually have qualms with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I can't tell people how they should feel about my vote. I can just say that the point of the AP poll is that it's a consensus poll, that there's some 60 plus other people who vote on it besides myself. Granted, I probably have one of the more extreme votes. Actually, I know I have one of the more extreme votes, but at the same time, like, you know, the poll isn't just my vote. I am 160th or 166th or 165th or whatever it is of the vote. So I control a sliver of this thing, and it's definitely an honor to, you know, have my sliver of the pie in there. And yes, I have some qualms about the way that top 10 is devised, like the fact that Florida State, like, they win one game and now they're the 7th team. Like, I just don't really get that personally, but, you know, it's for everyone has their own opinions, and I'm sure they can justify them as well.
Hey, Koki, can you stick with us through the break? Because I do want to talk to you about baseball real quick.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Koki, this is just a 2-minute break, so we'll be right back after this. More with Koki Riley as we continue on from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio on Tiger Rag Radio.
Tiger Rag Radio. The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio, Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne, Andre Champagne, and continuing on the Max Home Hotline, it's Koki Riley from The Advocate. Talked a lot of football and AP Top 25 poll. I guess my only 2 cents on that, Koki, it's only been 3 games. Could people just take a chill? You know, let's let the season develop. I mean, if you have Florida, whatever it is.
Jeff, I'm going to check with Brian Kelly and see if you can say that.
And it's part of the reason why I try to be a little more conservative with my movements and try not to overreact too much to one result. But the deeper you go into the season, the more aggressive you can be, because not only do you understand the team that you're ranking more, but you're understanding the teams they face more. And that's kind of what happened to LSU this week, where they go from number 2 in my poll to number 8 because of what's been happening to Florida and the Clemson, right? So, like, that plays as also a pretty big factor in my decision making.
Well, Koki, in addition to watching your ongoing thread about your AP poll voting, I also was interrupted numerous times over the past, actually 2 weekends, with this little Bengal tiger icon that Jay Johnson just solely, individually, by itself puts on his Twitter feed whenever he signs a player. Most of the players he signed are from the state of Louisiana, or certainly have a Louisiana background. And if I'm not mistaken, like the overwhelming majority of them are left-handed hitters and left-handed pitchers. What's going on there?
Yeah, I think the state of Louisiana thing is pretty interesting, because I think if you're going to look at this year's roster, it's pretty. They don't have a ton of Louisiana guys, and this recruiting class in particular isn't like ripe with Louisiana talent. There's William Patrick, there's Jack Ruckert, and outside of that, that might be it from the state of Louisiana for this year's recruiting class, and that team is very, very short. So I that's just kind of the state of the team right now. So I think, maybe a part of this has to do with the fact that that there's just more talented players in the 2027 and 2026 classes from Louisiana than there was in 2024 and 2025. That could be the case. But yeah, this team has kind of gradually gotten more and more national as Jay Johnson has the longer Jay Johnson has been here. So the fact that they went pre-Louisiana, it seems like they're going to be pretty heavy Louisiana, is pretty interesting, I think. And I think probably, again, like they're going to take wherever the best players are. Doesn't matter where they come from. And I think if there's a great player in Louisiana, they're going to make sure they get that guy with an extra emphasis toward it, right? Like to make sure that they sort of keep that identity. But if there's a player who's better in California and there's a player who might not be quite as good, but he's from Louisiana, they're going to take the guy from California because he's just a better player. Like they're not going to overcomplicate it for that reason. But so like I think that it's important to get the Louisiana guys. Those guys are also more susceptible to actually coming here. Look at William Patrick this year. Look at William Schmidt the year before. So I think that still is obviously important. Texas is important for similar reasons as well. But they're going to take the California kids. They took another kid from New York this year, and they tried to take a kid from New York the year before with Miguel Sime, who didn't end up coming. So like this national approach is just the way. Like Jay Johnson has all the connections on the West Coast, and Josh Jordan has all the connections on the East Coast, and Josh Simpson has a lot of connections in Texas. So like you have this really national recruiting approach, and when you won 2 national championships in 3 years, why not do that, right? So you can get talent from literally anywhere, and I think I don't want to do too many conclusions with this recruiting class, and it's the reason why I haven't spent like a ton of time researching all these guys. It's because like we don't know who's going to come here, who's not going to come here. Like we have no clue. And it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out in a year or two.
So Koki, why do you have Tennessee ranked ahead of LSU in your baseball poll? Why that? No, I'm just joking.
There's no I have a baseball poll vote, and I don't think there is a baseball poll for AP. I wish there was, though. I would vote on it in a millisecond. But yeah.
Just joking, man. All right, keep up the good work, and keep thinking freely and independently. It's good. We need more of that out there in this world. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Koki.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, Koki Riley from The Advocate. Hey, we got one more segment, so we'll wrap the show up when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And we're back with Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Wrapping up the show, been a fun show. Matt Hayes from the USA Today Network. We heard from Lieber Keene, Michael Cauble, Koki Riley. I mean, we got everyone, well, especially the 2 people that have been getting a lot of stuff thrown at them on social media, or just being talked about anyways on social media. You heard him here tonight on Tiger Rag Radio. So good job by Glenn for getting the guest. And again, he's on assignment, working on a big story. So hopefully he'll be with us next week on the show. Speaking of,
this was like the TMZ Tiger Rag episode.
It was. I mean, there's more action going on. Well, I tell you what, this past Saturday was great for college football, and it's one of those Saturdays. Last Saturday, like I feel sorry for people that are not into college football. When you had Georgia, Tennessee, and A&M, Notre Dame, and the LSU-Florida game was very intriguing.
Clemson,
I mean, it's just
Clemson, Georgia Tech was pretty.
Clemson, Georgia Tech to kick off the day. I mean, just a lot of fun stuff.
Hey, Jeff, sorry to interrupt you, but I don't think we said the word Southeastern this whole show.
No, we didn't. And we didn't get a scouting report on the Lions. And you know what? I guess, what are you expecting to see, Todd, Saturday night?
I think we're going to see a lot of Michael Van Buren. I think LSU's probably going to break off a few long passes, and I think LSU's going to win by probably close to 60-0 or something like that.
Okay. I was going to ask you, if they don't score 40 points in this game, how concerned are you?
I would be really concerned.
Yeah.
I really would. I really would be very concerned if they don't score 40 points.
Or 45 or more. Where would be, what is the point? Yeah, I mean, you threw out 60. I mean, it's hard to score 60 in a college football game.
Yeah.
Unless you're Alabama playing ULM.
Man, how times have changed. How long ago was it that LSU could just like score 7 times every time they got the ball, you know?
Well,
Different
Well,
world.
we'll see. Yep. All right, guys. We'll do it again next week. That does it for another edition of Tiger Rag Radio. For Andre Champagne, Jackson Blackman, who's got one more show to produce with us. We're going to miss him. Todd Horne, I'm Jeff Palermo. Have a great night, everyone. And for the latest in LSU sports, check out TigerRag.com.
Tiger Rag is everywhere. Online at TigerRag.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TigerRagMagazine. Or follow us on Twitter at Tiger_Rag.